Welcome back to Writer's Advice, guys. And I'm so excited because this week we have the lovely Megan Jacobson with us, who is an incredible award-winning young adult author, but also now a newly picture book author as well, with her new book, Big Love, which is absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend any parents go out and grab that book for their little ones. But you also have won incredible awards for both your young adult books, Yellow and the Build Up season. So thank you very much for joining us today, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. I'm excited to introduce you to all the listeners if they haven't met you before. But today's kind of more about your creative process and how you got to where you are today. So how did you know that when was it that you first knew that you were a writer?
I always wrote stories ever since I knew how to talk and tell stories. And I'm the youngest of four, and it's very hard to get a word in when you're the youngest of four. So I discovered that if I could write my stories down, I could get it all out without being interrupted. So I think that really sort of set me on that path.
That's amazing. So you're a journalist as well. Did you start out in screen, or like you're a bit of a screenwriter as well? Yeah.
I've kind of gone all around the place. So I started off, I wanted to be a writer, but my parents were like, it's quite hard to make money from that. So I did a journalism degree, and then I realized I was really, really bad at asking questions and like being on camera and presenting. And I sound like I'm about, I don't know, like 11. So I then kind of segued into writing for TV shows because I was doing extra work while I was at university and got chatting with some people, and I did that for a couple of years, but then the TV work dried up because reality TV became a thing, and then I kind of got into back into news using my journalism degree, but like behind the scenes and more the production side, which I really enjoy as well. So I kind of I have like 5 jobs.
Yeah, but it's all centered around the same aspect, I guess, of storytelling and writing.
Exactly, and it's just using sort of different techniques to tell stories, and so I find them all like really, really interesting, and they really complement each other as well. And sometimes you kind of get in a little bit of a rut with one style, and it's kind of interesting to play around with another style, and that kind of unlocks some doors sometimes.
That's an excellent way to put it too. So because I've never personally done any screenwriting. I think it's amazing. I've seen other people do it, and I'm just like, wow. To me, like the way my brain works as a novelist, I'm just like, how does things move over to this? But that's amazing how you can, I guess once you're in it, you can link them all up, and it's all different ways of storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to why. Like, why does this character want to do this? And if you kind of just follow that path, which is what does that character want, it's just expressing it in different ways, but it's all the same universal question of who this character is and why they're doing what they're doing,
and following their path. Absolutely. So when was it when you sat down and wanted to write Yellow? What brought you to that? To writing it? Was that your first novel, or
it was? Yeah. I had this story in my head for so many years, and I didn't think that I could write a novel. Like, I had written TV shows with other people, but I don't know, I always just put novelists on a pedestal, and I'm like, no, they're a different breed of people. Not like one of us mere mortals. And I didn't pursue it, and then I'd gone to New York trying to find a TV job, and that completely failed. And I had all of this time, and I'd spent all of my money, and my cousin actually, she's an actor, and she won got a mind blank, a Logie.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Emmy. I was like, no, a Logie. And I remember thinking, she's really talented, but she's just an ordinary person who I've seen since she was a kid, just trying and trying and trying and trying. And then that kind of made me realize that I don't know, like the people that are successful, they're just ordinary people that just try. And so I thought, well, I have this spare time for the first time in my life. I'm going to try and write this story that has been clawing at my brain for such a long time. And I just sat down and I wrote it. And it, I think it took 6 months all up.
Yeah, wow.
But I think it was ready to be written. And basically it was just waiting for me to have the confidence to actually try.
Yeah. And that story obviously stuck with you for a reason. Like, you were the person to read it. Have you, I'm sure you've read Big Magic by Elizabeth.
Okay, so I'm going to reference Big Magic.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I love this. Yeah.
So I mean, Big Magic says that if you ignore a story, then it goes away. But this one had been with me since, I think I was writing these characters when I was at university.
Wow.
So I've got them like existing in all of these short stories. And it's kind of funny because I didn't have a framework for them a while. For a while. I had the characters and the situation, but I didn't have like a narrative to hang them on, like a coat hanger. And then a couple of years before I wrote it, it just sort of came to me in a dream. And I just was like, okay, this is where these characters walk. This is the framework. This is the narrative of these characters. And so then I knew what it was, but it just took me a little while to put pen to paper.
Yeah, and it obviously definitely needed to come out from you specifically as well, exactly what way that you wrote it, because it was on a Book of the Year list. Is that correct? Like,
it got shortlisted for the Children's Book Council of Award of the Year, and I think it got it was highly like it. School Library Journal of America actually listed it as one of their favorite audiobooks of the year.
Oh wow. Yeah,
so that was a really big one. I don't know, I almost felt like I had to write it to stop that main character from haunting me, because she just would not leave me alone.
Yeah, so you're definitely a more character driven person. They come in through that way rather than
I have a character. But then the TV writing part of me is I start with a character and then a situation, and then I have to plot before I start. Like, I have to very much know what the story is. And it doesn't mean that I stick to it. Like, it's kind of funny because I have a look at my index cards that I write the scenes down on, and some of them I have it up there, but then I'm writing it, and this character would never do that. And so chuck it away.
That's so great. That's fun. It makes me want to look more into screenwriting. Like, that sounds like a fun process. So from your first novel, like, finally you've got it out, it's taken that 6 months. What was your process from then? You've seen these novelists and put them on a pedestal. You've got your novel, and now it's like, okay, getting published. How was that process for you?
Look, I'm really lucky. I Googled.
I love this.
So everyone sort of says, oh, you need to know people, or you should go to these events, and you should do this and you should do that. I had no idea what I was doing. So I Googled how to get published, and it said it's best to get an agent. So then I Googled agents in Australia and found Tara Wynn at Curtis Brown, who I thought represented books that I quite liked and would fit me. And so then I Googled how to, what to send to an agent, and put a template of a query letter and an outline. So then I did that. And then I looked on the website and sent it off. And, a couple of months later, I heard back.
That's amazing.
And then she took me on board, and then she sent it around to all the publishers, and and then I got 2 offers actually.
Oh really? Yep. How did you choose?
So they pitched how they would market the book. And I chose the one that sort of resonated with me, which was Penguin. but I mean, I also got a lot of rejections before I got those 2 offers, like a lot of rejections from different publishers. So you just kind of have to find the publisher and the editor that it, I don't know, responds to the work.
100%.
Well.
They have to be enthusiastic and resonate with it, I guess, as well. Like it's finding that right fit. Yeah. What would be your biggest piece of advice to upcoming writers who are looking to get published or gain an agent?
Google.
Yeah, yeah.
I get so many people asking me, you know, what's the secret and how do you send a query letter? And I'm like, there are literally thousands of templates out there. Probably don't try and be too different, in that, like, they get so many, if it's completely out of the parameter of what they're looking for, if you try and, you know, pitch in a haiku or something, it's probably not going to work that well. Just, you know, but also to use your own voice. So a lot of people, I think, try and write the query letters in a specific formal way. But the thing that you're selling isn't just your story, it's your voice and the way that you say things. And so pitch your story in the voice that you write with, make it stand out. And I think a lot of people forget that. They look at the templates and they think that they need to be really, really formal, but you're not just pitching the story, you're pitching your voice, and that's really important.
100%. And that is, I guess, especially the query letter is the first thing that they have to read, you know, so make sure that that is authentic to you and natural as well. So, awesome. So I want to dive a little bit more into your creative process. So when you come down to work on something, whether it be through TV or a novel or even your picture books, do you have specific things that you do on a daily basis or to get you in the creative zone, to get your brain ticking that way, I guess, as well?
I used to really wait for the muse to come to me, but I have a job, I have a toddler. I just don't really have time for that. So what really helps for me is walking. I go for like really, really long walks with no music, no podcasts, and I just kind of think about the story and the characters, and it's sort of like structured daydreaming, and you think about all of the what ifs of the situation and the character and the story, and I don't know, I feel like it unlocks something in me, and I just write down like metaphors and images and, you know, bits of where the story might go on my iPhone notes, and they just go forever. And then occasionally I type them up. But that is probably my biggest way that I kind of get into the creative zone. And then when I come home, it pours out of me in a way that it doesn't when I'm just static in front of a computer. Also, I'm quite visual. So before I start, I make a Pinterest board.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I kind of find images which remind me of the characters and the setting and just kind of a vibe. So images that I think would resonate with my character, so I can get to know their character really well and kind of build that world in a more authentic sense. And I also sometimes create a playlist. So
I love that too. Yeah. I definitely do that.
Music which just resonates with me about a character. So like for the build-up season, I just thought that Illy was such a lord. So before I started with her, I'd put Royals on or something, and also just watch the video clip of that sassy like 17-year-old. And I was just like, okay, I'm in Illy's head right now. And with Kira for Yellow, she's sort of a bit whisper soft and quiet and dreamy. So I found Fields of Barley by, I don't even know who it's by, some some song, but it reminded me so much of what this story is. And off the back of that, I actually made Kira's last name Barley.
Oh, I love that. I have to look up that song. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think music is a really great one, and no one has said that yet. So I'm so glad that you've said that. It can really put you in the zone, especially if you're a visual person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I'm listening to something, I can really start to see your characters come to life as well. So
yeah, and it's a good way to get into the zone, because if you do
Yeah.
it every time you start writing, then if you find the right song, you put it on, and then you might only need to listen to it once, but then suddenly you're in the writing zone. It just kind of switches something. It unlocks some sort of emotion in you that can get you right into that world again in a way that, being quite logical about it doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, 100%. I think having those little things are really great. Like, most, like, pretty much all writers, up and coming writers, do have a busy life of work and family and whatever as well. So to have something that can really just get you in the zone, I think that's a really great tip. So excellent. So what are your long-term plans with writing? Have you got anything in the works now, or is there any other characters that are kind of hanging out around in your head coming your way?
I just got an offer for another pitch book, which is exciting.
Congratulations. Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting into that world a little bit, just because I'm hanging around a 2, almost 3-year-old quite a lot.
Yeah.
So that those stories are just coming to me in a way that they never used to.
Yeah.
But I've also got a YA novel, which, again, like Yellow, the characters have been with me. I won a short story competition in high school with these characters.
Wow. Yeah.
And they have been with me for such a long time. I think when I sold Yellow, I also I pitched this book, but then when I went to write it, I had the characters, but I didn't have the framework again, and the story wasn't ready to be told. So I went off with another story, and then a couple of months ago, this story came to me as I was driving, actually, and then suddenly the framework and the ending came to me, and I started crying, and I just knew that this story was ready to be told with these characters, and they've haunted me for over 20 years now. So I'm really excited to write them. I'm just about to have a baby, so I'm going to be so busy, and I'm scared how I'm going to find the time. But this story just really wants to be written, and I'm so excited by it.
I'm excited. I want to read it already. Like, I'm excited about it now you say that, especially when I know that if it's been sitting there for that long, it's like, it's ready to come out. So you've got another child to birth first before that book. Yeah. So do you have any favorite books or anything that you've specifically read that has really drawn you towards becoming a writer, I guess, as well?
Yeah. I love Under Milkwood by Dylan Thomas. My high school teacher lent it to me, and it was the first time that I realized that the way that words sound can make you feel rather than what the words mean as well. Like the way that they knock together, and the rhythm and the lilt of the language can stir something in you on top of what the words are saying, and that was kind of a bit of a revelation for me. So I own it on vinyl, being read by Richard Burton, and whenever I listen to it, it just reminds me of the day that I really fell in love with language rather than just stories.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful.
So that would be one of my favorites. I love The Bell Jar. I read it as a teenager. And again, I think it's sort of I think as a teenager, we were told to read so many novels that were classics, which were written by men. And this was a story written by a young woman talking about what it is to be a young woman. And she writes so lyrically and so beautifully. And some of the things that she brings up in that book really resonated with me. The way that, as a woman, you have to sometimes choose between all of the options that you can be in life in a way that men don't have to.
Yeah.
And I remember really relating to that. And then, when it kind of got to the end, I don't want to spoil it. I was like, oh, I was relating to that main character.
And I guess it's finding a piece like that too that you feel like you can really relate to. It's it's interesting. Do you have any
books that I read as teenagers? I don't know, they resonated with me. I think it's because you're finding yourself, those books written that you read as a teenager relate to you more than books that you read as a grown-up, because they sort of help you form yourself. And the other one was Melina Marchetta's Looking for Alibrandi, because the first one that I read that featured an Australian. I could see my world and my issues and all of that being depicted in a way that I hadn't before in most of the other books that I'd read, because we're just mostly told to read overseas books all the time when you're young.
So true. That was it. That was huge Australian book at the time to come out. Like that was that was really changing, specifically in YA. Do you still read a lot of young adult? Yeah.
I'm reading one at the moment.
Yeah, what are you reading at the moment?
Only a Monster.
Oh yes. I love that you said that. I have Vanessa on soon too. So
my God.
Yeah. I'm so excited because I'm reading that at the same time, and I'm just like, I think that's absolutely amazing. That's so great. So also, is that why you kind of find yourself, obviously the characters are speaking to you from that world, but also do you find at that time that's why you write young adult as well, to almost give back to teenagers in that way who are finding themselves at that point in time? I think books are incredibly important.
Look, I find it I just write stories that come to me. So I think maybe I write those stories because they're the ones that affected me the most. Maybe I'm drawn to them because of that. But it sounds so airy-fairy, but I don't really think too much about my audience.
It's just what comes through. I get it.
Like I do think about my audience, but it's the story that just comes to you.
Yeah, and you can't help, like if that character's speaking to you and that's what's coming to you, that's what's meant
look,
to come
if I had like a hard-boiled middle-aged detective come to me wanting to write a crime story, I'm sure I'd write that one. They haven't knocked my skull yet.
I think that is the beauty of writing, though, is so much of it is unexplainable, and it's like, no, this is just coming through me, so this is the story that I have to tell. And I think that's the absolute beauty of it. Do you have any particular books that you would recommend up and coming writers read, or like whether it's about the art of writing or language, or something that you think is
Big Magic. I read that recently, and it just spoke to so many truths that I knew them to be truths but hadn't articulated them yet. Just the whole idea that the story, just to be true to the story. And it was kind of interesting because I read that just before I got a rejection for a novel I'd been working on, and to be fair, that novel needs a lot of work. And I waited for the pain, and it didn't come. And I just remember thinking, I wrote that book because it was the book that needed to be written. It's not necessarily the book that needs to be published, but that story needed to come out. And I'd had this other story come to me that I was quite excited about. And I was just excited to be able to work on the new story. And I feel like it made me realize that, it is the process that you love, and being true to the story rather than any of the external bells and whistles that come with it.
100%. It's like you write for a reason, right? You fall in love with it because you love doing it. Absolutely having your book at the end of the day, and getting awarded for that is incredible. But if you don't love it, what's the point in that? It's
exactly. And look, it's like an industry filled with so much rejection. If your love of writing comes from external validation, then you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
love of writing should be, being true to the story.
Yeah, and
And
some stories are just
expressing
meant to be
yourself.
written. Yeah, I love Big Magic. I think that's top of my list to recommend as well. The way she depicted so many things in there, I think is just excellent. What is the best advice someone's given you in this industry, or prior, just as a writer in general?
As a writer, don't focus too much on what people want. If you try and write for, an industry or an audience, or what you think is hot right now, number one, writing and publishing is so slow that if something's on trend now, it won't come out until, minimum 3 years later. By that time, whatever is on trend won't be on trend. And also, it just won't be authentic. It'll be forced.
Yeah.
So it won't resonate with anyone. So what you have to do is just kind of put your ear to your soul and listen hard to what that story is that's inside of you, and work on that. And don't be influenced by how you think other people will respond to it, because that's not something that you can change or you can influence. The only thing that you can influence is how truthful you can be. So just focus on that.
Absolutely. You're given the gift of writing for a reason. It's gorgeous. Thank you so much for that. Thank you very much for joining us today, Megan. I cannot wait to share this beautiful interview with so many people, but I am going to, I'm just going to read out your word prompt that you've given us. So what we do at the end of every episode, as listeners will know, is we give away a copy of the author's book. So we are giving away a copy of Yellow. So I'm so excited to get this into someone's ears. But what you need, eyes as well. What you need to do is enter the writing prompt competition. So I'm just going to find your writing prompt here. And to do that, all you have to do is go to oliviahilliard.com/podcast, and there'll be a little link of how you can fill this in. But this is Megan's writing prompt this week. So, I can't believe it's my brother's fault. He was doomed from the moment he was pulled all bloody and squalling from my mother. Their fists and last breath happening at about the same time. The priest declared the baby doomed at the same time he declared my mother dead. And he didn't look too sad about the situation, really. I love that. This is going to be so good. I'm going to send you some of the stories that come through, because I'm so excited to see people's interpretation of that. So if you would love to win a copy of Megan's Yellow, just to fill out the writing prompt section on the website, just 1 or 2 paragraphs on that writing prompt, and next week you could be receiving Megan's book. So thank you, Megan. Is there anything else that you would like to leave listeners with today? I think that interview has been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, not really.
Firstly, where can we find you? So where can we find, if people want to get in contact, where can we find you?
Okay, so my website is meganjacobson.com. It's not very interesting, but it's got some links. My Instagram is probably where I go the most. It's Jacobson _ is it Megan? I think Megan. Jacobson,
I'll put it in the show notes anyway. Yeah.
And my Twitter is Jacobson _ Meg.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.